Let me first say that I don't like doing this, because this is an open source project that I'm using and the people involved have good intentions, but making a career from lying and misleading people is crossing a line. Before I start grilling Godot, I want to mention some things that it does right. Its editor, documentation, cross-platform support, ease of use, and its sync system. As I said in the previous video, I was hyped for Godot's global illumination, which is one of the main reasons I chose to use it. I started with using SDF GI. As I was developing a test level for my game and making it bigger, I noticed that parts of the level that were supposed to be dark are fully lit when viewed from a distance. Obviously, this is unusable. Okay, let's try voxel GI instead. While SDF GI's shadow break at a distance, voxel GI doesn't even have shadows to begin with. Or should we say it has a lot of light leaking. At this point I feel like I've been tricked. I guess I'll have to settle for static global illumination. Let's try light mapping instead. It's also broken. Am I going to have to start over in another game engine, losing months of work? Godot's main developers knowingly deceive people into using their product, for profit. At this point I'm fed up with Godot. I'm going to try Unreal Engine 5. Unreal doesn't work. First of all, Unreal's documentation is awful. Its approach to programming is also awful, forcing you to do things their way. Fortunately, I had the foresight to write as much code as possible in engine-agnostic C++, minimizing vendor lock-in scripting languages like GDScript and Unreal Blueprints. Unfortunately, Unreal doesn't use C++ standard library, which my code and its dependencies use. To bypass this problem, I tried making a DLL, so the C++ files are compiled outside Unreal's build system. After doing so, the code still didn't work, because by default Unreal disables RTTI, runtime type information, which my C++ code and its dependencies also use. To use RTTI, Unreal's documentation instructs to build the engine from source with RTTI enabled. I did that, but now Unreal's code compilation button does nothing when clicked, at least on Linux. So far my experience with Unreal been awful, and at this point I want to use something else. Unity is obviously untrustworthy after the runtime fee scandal. Maybe Flex Engine will work? It got nice real-time global illumination demos. Flex's real-time global illumination got the same problem as Godot's SDF GI, breaking past short distances. It also got bad Linux support. Maybe Wicked Engine? Yeah, I think I'll pass on this one. I tried looking again why Godot's lightmapper got visual glitches, as I couldn't reproduce them in a simple scene. Turns out Godot had another bug that caused the lightmap UVs to not update when I added UV2 to my meshes. It didn't revert changes when disabling editable children, keeping the bad meshes. Even after fixing these meshes, the lightmapper still got visual glitches. These are not the only broken features that Godot's leadership deceitfully presents as working. Godot's in-house physics engine is also broken. In Godot 3 we could use bullet physics, which is bad but it's not broken. Godot's leadership decided to remove bullet in Godot 4, leaving users with their broken physics engine as the only option. I mean, look at this. Meanwhile, there's Jolt Physics, a free open source physics engine which is fast, deterministic, which is important for networking, and most importantly, it's not broken. Instead of using Jolt, Godot's leadership chose to waste a year of work on a failed attempt to make a physics engine. And the physics engine contributor left because he was bullied, and Godot's leadership sided with the bully. For my game, I did my own Jolt physics integration into my C++ code. The next feature they are deceitful about is Occlusion culling. There's a bug report that it's broken for over 2 years, and in the GitHub issue I explained why it's broken and how to fix it over 5 months ago. Meanwhile, Godot's main developer brags about it on Twitter, when some other guy made a post about it. Instead of warning people that the occlusion culling is broken, he brags about it, deceiving them. He goes on to brag about how nobody else uses their great approach. And you know why? Because it's wrong. Oh, by the way, later that day the guy that he replied to found out on his own that Godot's occlusion culling is broken. And what makes this even sadder is that they didn't even need to reinvent a square wheel. It's a solved problem with many publicly available solutions, and there are implementations under open source license like Uro3Ds. So they just could, and still can, and should, use them. Occlusion culling isn't the only thing they are taking forever to fix. There's also not exposing the physics step function to enable implementing client-side prediction. Over half a decade and counting to expose a single function. To conclude, broken physics engine, broken occlusion culling, broken real-time global illumination, broken light mapper, bad technical decision making, bad treatment of contributors, and taking forever to fix critical bugs and add important features. Godot's leadership makes a lot of bad decisions, and to be honest I perceive them as incompetent and immoral. Despite all the bad things with Godot, I'm going to have to bite the bullet and keep using it as it's the only practical option I have.